People ask me why we let Dan do the things that we let him do. Well, there wasn't a question of that in Kenya. Everything became an adventure. That experience of a global tribe was something that was to shape his character forever.
I always bring a gorilla mask whenever I'm traveling around. So whenever I stop in a village, I just put this mask on and start dancing around. And the people just immediately go crazy, and they really like you, treat like a hero almost.
I never was worried about him. He would push it a little too much, but he would always be able to make somebody laugh. He was extraordinary like that.
Being in Somalia was both the most exciting and the most horrific time of Dan's life. Somalia was a battlefield in the early 90s. Initially, there was a terrible famine that left thousands of people dead, and that's when Dan first went into Somalia. Dan was actually one of Reuters' youngest photographers ever. He was 21 when he started working with him, and 22 when he became a regular stringer.
We would see these pictures coming from Newsweek and Time that he was taking of the famine or of the tanks, or he'd be very close up and there'd be flames, and people would say, "Amy, aren't you worried about your brother?" And I never really was. I knew he'd be okay.
There was a bombing by UN troops of a house where they thought the warlord was hiding. It's rather like our quest for Osama bin Laden. And they killed, UN and US, under US guidance, killed 84 people. They wounded many hundreds. So the survivors ran to the journalists' hotel to ask them to come and cover the carnage, shoot the carnage. And Dan was among the group who went. And when they arrived at the site, 1,000 people had gathered. And the people thought that they were troops come back to shoot the dead. And they started throwing stones and sticks at the journalists. Dan and his other friends ran. But in the end, 4 of them were stoned to death. And 1 survived from that group. So Dan was stoned to death. Shortly after Dan was killed, I went back to London to my apartment, and I was rummaging around in a cupboard, and I found 3 journals that had been tucked away that he had just kept there for safekeeping. As it turned out, we found 17 journals that he had collected and created over a period of 8 years. Dan put into his journal anything that he saw around him, anything that was found or created, feathers and sticks and photographs and anything that he found, the artifacts of life. So just by looking at a page, you could tell where he'd been that day, probably. Every now and again there was a comment like, "To you who are reading this in 50 years' time." So there was a sense that maybe somebody would look at it, but maybe it would be a grandchild or something.
Exactly.
Not thousands of people around the world. And then we put together the first book, and now there's been a second book, which is about a biography called Art of Life. First book is Journey as a Destination. And now I know there's another book waiting to be made. And we've created a foundation that commemorates and celebrates what we call creative activists, really using media in a powerful, positive way to wake people up. Because we don't have a long time on this planet, I think, to sort things out. And I think if Dan can be a clarion call to awaken, then I will be really, really happy.
I get letters every week from people who have been moved and inspired by him, and it's so nice to know because I do miss him so much, that he is continuing to light sparks in people.
I think Dan's primary message is to live fully, to enjoy life as much as you possibly can, to love, to laugh, to dance, to be as much of yourself as you can possibly be, not only for yourself but also for others.